Hi, Bart.
Hello there.
What's the mug? Oh,
We've got share this morning.
Yes, you have Churl and Sarkeesian. Yes. So, all right. So I've heard, and please pardon my lack of a camera for a couple of moments. I have heard that there is something that is going on involving the national team this weekend that might be worthy of discussion, as we did with our friend Michael Parkhurst before you came on this morning to discuss what's going on with Mauricio Pochettino, who I've heard is the I don't know if you know this, but he is apparently the new men's national team coach, and he has been seen looking at MLS Next Pro games in Austin, Texas, in shorts and shoes without socks.
Yeah, that's kind of the headline this weekend in the U.S. soccer world. It's the first game of the Mauricio Pochettino era.
There's a new coach. The new phone books are here.
We got a new guy in charge. And I think a lot of people would argue that this is one of the most important coaching hires in U.S. soccer history. Not when you consider that this is the coach who's supposed to take us to the World Cup that we are hosting in 18 months.
Yeah.
But also, just the stature and the resume that he brings. It's definitely, and not to besmirch anyone who was before this, but definitely the most decorated coaching hire since Bora, which was for the 94 World Cup. So it's important to just see what Poch is going to change about this team, if anything, and what he values on the field at the international level. Because, Sean, the roster isn't much different, and the roster changes that we had this window were more because a ton of people are injured. Yes. So, I don't think we learned anything new about his particular depth chart or the depth chart of the national team, but we can learn how he's going to set them up, how he's going to deploy certain players, looking at maybe Christian Pulisic on the right, looking at Malik Tillman, maybe Haji Wright starting on the left, one of those two guys. That's really the only change I perceive really seeing. But, then the mentality and the general tactics. Are we going to go from the boring, plodding, scripted drive Berhalter ball to energetic, fun, bumper car-esque Pochettino ball? I think he's, I don't know, I'm sure Jason can speak a little bit more, but if you're going on the Bielsaistas, those gents, I think he's the farthest from Bielsa in terms of what he wants to do on the field, but there's still a lot of that to it. And I'm interested to see how that plays out with this team, a team of Americans, and Americans always being known for hustling and working hard. So there's a lot of things you can look for on the field, despite the roster not being very different.
You mentioned hustling and working hard. Mike Woitala over at Soccer America mentioned in a conversation with Tim Ream after the first two training sessions, quote, "There were a lot of individual conversations, understanding us as people, and they've continued throughout. As the hours have ticked, you see certain guys getting pulled to have sit-down chats. I think it's great." Harry Kane, when he was first exposed to Pochettino, when we first met, he was very easy to talk to. You could tell straight away, very respectful, wanted to get to know everyone, all the players, all the young ones as well. Sometimes when a manager comes, he just wants to know the leaders. And apparently it's intense training and a lot of individual conversations, according to Mike.
Well, I think that's the quote that's been kind of taken, not necessarily out of context, but of course spun to mean that everything that we've ever done in U.S. soccer is terrible, is the idea that there was a 2-hour training session. And I think part of that is what you just described. Well, Woitala described is, I don't know if they were training the full 2 hours, but they were on the field for 2 hours doing work. And it seems like Pochettino also wanted to make sure that he doesn't have a whole lot of time to install whatever system or philosophies he wants to. And, you're going to need a lot of time in your first camp. As we know, it's not like international windows are, you have a lot of time for actual training.
So, I want to install this new system.
Yeah, It's going to take if you don't have the physical days, right, you're going to need to take a little bit longer in those days. And that's just to me what this was is more, as you described, him talking, learning, explaining, so that guys can understand that feedback in the moment, but not just yelling an instruction, but having that sit down to understand them, what they feel, what they see, what they do.
I feel like the song that has popped into my head is "Getting to Know You."
Yeah.
Getting to know
Yes.
you, getting to know all about you. You know, one of those kind of things. That's what we're staring at here.
Absolutely. And that's the goal for this camp. I think he made that very clear at the beginning, of not only when he was hired, but also when he kind of released the roster for this camp. This is a, handshakes, fist bumps, hugs, and speed dating type thing.
Speed dating is probably, you ain't wrong.
I mean, but that's what it is, because, again, I'll say it, and I guess I have to shout it. It's not like the American player pool somehow just magically both improved and increased, right? It's not what happened here. But we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of good players pool, more than we've ever had before. And now Pochettino's job is to maximize that talent. And part of that is understanding the players as people, but also understanding the players as players and understanding where they can be put on the field to best help their game thrive and best help the team thrive.
You look at the 5 assistants, no real shock, because pretty much when you're the new boss and you've been hired, you're going to bring in your guys. No real shock.
Right.
Jesus Perez, Antonio Jimenez, Argentine Miguel de Agostino. They've worked with him at each of his 5 clubs. His son began working with him back in 2016 at Spurs. And then Silvia Tuyavinas is the new strength and conditioning coach. And obviously, the Tim Ream said basically it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, we want to get to know them. They want to get to know us. And looking at previous players, Danny Rose, who was 24, recalled thinking he'd played a good game. The next day I went into his office and he had 26 video clips showing everything I did wrong. But Pochettino inspired and impressed Rose. I used to think you had to have older, experienced players to challenge at the top of the league. He's proved me and everybody else wrong. Rose, who was eventually named captain, would say the best friend I have at the club is my manager.
Right. And I think that's something that speaks to not just his man management, but his respect that he gets from players. He's obviously earned and built a lot of respect from what he did at Tottenham, then, I guess what he did at PSG. And I think the fact that he's still so well respected despite a Chelsea tenure, that, to be fair to him, I think he laid a lot of groundwork for why they're having success now. He kind of reestablished a sense of, I don't even know if it's a sense of club, but just some sense of like, oh, we're a team working together, as opposed to whatever, I don't know, a collection of 72 men who happen to share the same badge. But he is very well respected, so I don't think he has the same problem of a player maybe not respecting him. But that is an anecdote of how he still earns that respect on a daily basis, because he's careful to explain, right? He's not shouting. He's not just saying you didn't do this well. It's, this is what we want you to do better. And so, finding solutions or offering alternatives is better than just saying you didn't do it correctly.
What? So you mean saying that, hey, let's work on this, instead of saying, hey, you suck, go sit down, is
Which,
different?
to be fair, is not saying that the guy before him didn't. I just think that that's, again, a managerial style that makes a whole lot of sense.
Who in this particular camp, and yes, I know it's speed dating, and I know that we have kind of crashed into Shea Soccer Bistro here.
Yep.
As we're sitting there and we're looking at the speed dating tables down the middle. It's like 2 minutes, time, change, in this particular camp, with the same batch of folks that we're used to seeing, with maybe a couple of different folks. Who are you looking at here that under new management could be flourishing more than they have in the past under old management? Or is it going to be, because obviously the starting 11, we would anticipate in a perfect world, everybody healthy, is going to be the same starting 11. Is there anybody like maybe a Malik Tillman who now with an opportunity like this, you're sitting there and thinking, okay, this dude who I think should have been getting a chance under previous administrations now might be getting a chance under the Pochettino administration. Is there anybody in there that pops into your head?
Well, it's hard to tell because there are so many injuries that have taken opportunities away from guys who maybe would have been in that role because they're just higher up on the depth chart. That said, a guy like Tanner Tessman or Aiden Morris has a great opportunity to earn the trust of the manager, right? Over, say, a Johnny Cardoso, who we know did not play well last camp and isn't here because of injury and had a chance to, kind of start with the clean slate. So those two specifically have an opportunity in this camp. Now, that said, it's very likely that Yunus Musa is starting in the, defensive midfield position. But again, Morris and Tessman have an opportunity, and maybe Busio, but I don't think Busio is playing in the deep lying midfield position. I just don't think that's where he needs to play. But, those guys have an opportunity to show that they can be trusted. Same with the right back battle between Marlon Fossey and Joe Scally, because I think though he hasn't seen him in the U.S. uniform, I'm sure Mauricio Pochettino can watch tape and evaluate that Sergiño Dest is our best option at right back, and probably a top 3 player on the team. But again, it's building that trust, and every manager has players they trust, because those players do what is asked of them, is what that trust usually boils down to. That doesn't mean that they're always starting, but that does mean that they, are guys who they know, okay, if I tell him to do B, C, and F, he's going to do that for me. He may not be able to do all 26 letters of the alphabet, but he can do 5. And that is what we're looking at for the defensive mid and the right back role. Now, the other thing here, John, is, and this is not necessarily related to Pochettino, but Flair and Balogun out injured.
Mm-hmm.
All 72 other forwards, I think, are called into camp now.
Uh-huh.
Right, because you had 3 forwards. Balogun gets dropped. You added Vasquez, and you still have a guy like Haji Wright in there as well. So you have 3 guys with Pepe, Sargent, Vasquez who have an opportunity to, if not, look, if they score in any of these games, they've already done better than most of them did in the Berhalter era. This is going to be interesting because that's kind of my key that I'm looking for the Pochettino system, style, whatever you want to call it, is how do we get the striker more involved? Because that was a plague under the Berhalter regime.
A pox on your house, Mr. Berhalter. You'll have no strikers.
The strikers just, never got involved in games. So how does Pochettino do that? Well, these 3 gentlemen are going to be tasked with, executing that game plan. And I'm curious to see who gets to start Saturday, but maybe even more so who gets that start Tuesday in Guadalajara.
So then
Vasquez, I think that's the best narrative.
I was going to say, so what's your gut tell you? So
well, I think Sargent and Pepe. I think Sargent or Pepe, and Sargent needs to stay healthy for more than a day. So that's his task this camp, is to stay healthy, right?
Don't get injured.
2-hour training session. I thought, oh my gosh, we're going to get so many guys get hurt. But that's something that Sargent, I think everyone's looked at him as the most talented, well-rounded striker in the pool. But again, it's about how do you execute in the moment? How do you go out there and perform at game time? And he hasn't had that opportunity because he's been hurt for, basically since the World Cup in 2022, while Pepe has been playing and starting. So, and scoring, more importantly. So that is not necessarily Pochettino, but the board group is one that has a lot of opportunities to prove that they belong here, earn trust, not just with Pochettino, but the fan base and everything.
I was going to ask, so your gut tells you one thing. Do you anticipate seeing something else when it comes to the striker position?
No, I think we'll see split minutes, John. Because again, I don't think Balogun being here, he would have been probably, in my opinion, obviously he has to earn it, but he's still the most talented striker we have He's obviously playing in the best league of all the strikers. He's scoring in that league. I thought he had a very good Copa America, despite, again, the striker not being fully involved. He scored. So without him, I don't know who that number one is. And so for my personal taste, that means I want to rotate minutes to see who can execute in live action, because, I don't think it's worth giving Pepe or Sargent 80 minutes and then you get a cameo appearance from one of the other guys. I think you do need to rotate. Now, that also said, John, and I will again reiterate this because narrative matters over reality, Brandon Vazquez playing in Estadio Akron, scoring against Mexico would be the best narrative. And if that happens, then watch out, because we will be insufferable on Twitter for the next however long until we play Mexico.
So let's see. Instead of it being Open Cup hero Brandon Vazquez, it would be national team hero Brandon Vazquez.
Which he's done before. He has scored for the national team. He hasn't had a whole lot of opportunities. He's cooled down significantly from his initial move to Monterrey. And, not in a bad way. He's still starting and playing. So clearly the club still sees him as, a good player, but he hasn't been scoring at the clip. I mean, I think he was averaging like a goal and a half a game for the first, like 5 matches. So he's obviously regressed to the mean, but that doesn't mean he's not a very good and active striker for Monterrey, and that he can't do that for the national team.
Walk me through your starting 11 and walk me through what you think the starting 11 is going to be and how different they may be.
All right. My starting 11 is Schulte.
Yeah. Like I said, this is why I'm like, I want you to tell me why.
Because he's playing soccer, John.
He's a functioning player who's breathing and actually,
which is more than you can say for the other two. And Zach Steffen's a bad goalkeeper, so I'm
with his feet specifically. Yes,
he's just bad. But Schulte for me starts, and then I would go Fossey.
See, but you go Fossey and I go Fossey, and that's all I'm thinking.
I know. He had it coming. Fossey, McKenzie, Robinson, Jedi. My midfield 3, because I think Poch did basically say we're either playing like a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3, whatever way you want to put 3 midfielders and 3 attackers out there, whatever formation you want to call it. Okay. I know Jason's coming on later, so he can pontificate about the senselessness of actual formation. But, my midfield 3 is probably Musa, McKinney. I'm going to put Aronson in there.
Okay.
And then my front 3 are Pulisic on the right, Sargent in the middle, and I'm starting Tillman on the left, which he's been starting a lot for PSV and playing very well. So I think the reason for that is, John, I'm putting Pulisic and Tillman in positions they're currently playing for their club. And I don't know if you've heard this, but Christian Pulisic is the best player that Serie A has ever seen, ever. Nick Alifi will validate that for me.
I'm sure he will. Absolutely. Yeah.
But he's doing this on the right side, right? And then also with Tillman, he's doing this on the left wing. So I'm putting players in positions they are currently playing and excelling in. So that's why I do Pulisic on the right, Tillman on the left. Whatever you just said, Abby, celebrating a meaningful and easy fast. I agree.
Yes.
Enjoy your celebration with your family and loved ones. What I think Pochettino will do, I don't know, because we don't know what he truly values, but I don't think I think you'll see Ream and one of McKenzie or Robinson in the center back. I wouldn't surprise me if he still has Schulte starting for the reasons I listed. He is playing soccer currently, which is better than you can say for either Horvath or for Matt Turner. I wouldn't be surprised if Fossey starts at right back for the fact that, I mean, I think there's a hunch that there was a little bit of shadow coaching from Pochettino last camp to get Fossey in. Um, I think when you're talking about Panama specifically, you're not worried about them attacking you in the same way that you are Mexico. So I think for Fossey to be on the field gives you more attacking options, and you're not as worried defensively. It wouldn't shock me in the midfield if he does like Tessman or Morris and then Musa McKinney. Mainly because I think he will want to try actually having like a defensive midfielder. And that's the question I have about this in general, John, is how much of this is put the best 11 out there and how much of this is put the players out there to execute the game plan that he's set forth, because we're still in the early stages, right? Okay. But he also said very clearly that he wants to win friendlies. So I do think that Musa and McKinney in the midfield at some level give you the best option, whether that's with, an Aronson or Tillman, or if that's with a, Tessman or Morris, I don't know. And then I do think that he will do Tillman. I really think he'll still put Tillman on the left and Pulisic on the right. I haven't heard him say anything necessarily about that, but again, just to my point of that's where they're currently playing. And we saw Pulisic on the left wing all the time under Berhalter. There was no moving him around. I don't think there's any real value in just holding to that. Mm-hmm. And again, if the dude is playing out of his mind on the right wing for Milan, why are we moving him to the left wing just because? Why? And also, I don't know who plays at right wing behind him. It's not going to be Zentejas. So, you have better options at left wing and Tillman or Haji right. So why not put Pulisic on the right and put one of those two guys on the left? And then I would imagine that Sargent or Pepe starts. I just don't know. It's hard to tell who's going to – I don't know. I'm not there in camp, so I can't tell you who's performing better. I know. So.
All right. So then, since you're not in camp, I'm going to ask you this anyway. Who do you think could benefit from this the most? And it could be someone that we're seeing starting traditionally in the 11, or someone that we have not seen. Like I said, Malik Tillman, Josh Sargent would be two of those names off the board.
I think Tillman's the one that has the most room to. Because two things, John. One, new coach for the national team. And to be fair to Berhalter, it's not like Tillman showed him that he deserved to be playing there, right? Tillman has to show up because he's showing up at the club level. And so right now he's having a very good run of form with PSV Eindhoven, a very good team. He's playing very good soccer. He's playing on a team playing very good soccer. And if he can take that mojo, bring it stateside, bring it to Austin, Texas with him, I think he can, again, it's just one impression, maybe two impressions. But if his first impression on the field can be PSV, Malik Tillman, then I think that's going to be a really good first impression. And I think he has the opportunity to put himself up there as possibly the next left winger. Because again, obviously with Berhalter, when Tim Weah and Christian Pulisic are healthy, you want to get those two guys on the field. But Tim Weah is not healthy right now. So Tillman has an opportunity there specifically. But I think also when you're looking at guys who have a chance under Pochettino to kind of elevate their own stock within the pool, it is a guy like Sargent who hasn't been healthy for forever. Maybe finally is, right? And does so many things at the striker position very well. Mm-hmm. But again, both of those, Tillman and Sargent, that's on them. That has nothing to do with the coach, right? That has to do with them seizing the opportunity in front of them. And for Sargent, it's can he take advantage of the fact that he's healthy? Because he hasn't been in forever.
All things being equal, is there still in your mind someone who should be in camp that has not been in camp for one reason or another, whether it's scheduled crossovers, just not being a teacher's pet, he comes to school in a bowl cut and a t-shirt, and everybody looks at him funny, and it's like, why are you Why are you here? Is there somebody still that we're missing that's a part of the roster / equation that we haven't seen?
No.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. You could make the argument that a guy like Jordan Pefok should get another look. Maybe wasn't looked at seriously enough under Berhalter, but he also didn't take advantage of his opportunities. And so when you miss a sitter in Azteca to get a win in qualifying, and you just completely blow it, it's hard for me to look at you and say, yeah, I trust you type of thing. And I know there's only one moment and he was still in the right spot, and finishing is not automatic, but things like that are reasons why I don't think he got called in as much. But, new coach, you have the opportunity to open the playbook a little bit more, venture deeper into the player pool. So I do think another striker like Pefok could be a guy you look at, but, he's doing that with Vasquez, right? Vasquez is, I don't know if that means he's the fourth starter or fourth striker on the depth chart, but he has a chance to make himself that. But there's not a lot of guys that I think are missing. Now, there are some that I would like to be seen called in. Brian Reynolds would be one at right back. But if Marlon Fossey is doing it, who kind of is in a similar vein as Brian Reynolds, he's just, 3-4 years older in terms of guy doing a good, decent job in a, second tier top flight league. That's a good thing, right? So that's that. I'm interested to see the development of Josh Winder at Benfica. A lot was made because it was reported he'll be training with the first team during this international break, which I hope he does. That would be a waste of an international break by a club to not bring up young players to the first team. But he and Jalen Neal are guys who we've seen in the past. Dietz, who played at the Olympics, are guys who are starting to get to that age where they need to put together consistent performances at professional level to be considered legitimate prospects for the future. And with the new coach, again, you just have a chance to, in his eyes, give him something new to look at. But I don't think there's anyone who's screaming for, oh, he must be in camp. Maybe Guzan.
There you go. Considering
I'm
that, well, I mean, hey, man. I know.
Is that bait to talk about Brooks Lennon, who hasn't been good this year and probably should be left either?
Well, and
unprotected for the expansion draft or traded in the offseason.
Well, we get into those discussions come expansion draft time. There was Josh Winder. I think that speaks a lot to what Danny Cruz has been able to do up at Lou City. And you're seeing Lou City being one of those USL championship locations that is finding talent, whether it's Harris or Josh Winder, and moving them on and getting them over into the European theater. Something in USL championship that we've only seen a couple of times, but once again, you gravitate toward Lou City and what they're doing. So they're building something. I'm still wondering why Danny Cruz isn't getting looked at by Major League Soccer or any other first or second division clubs overseas.
Name a USL coach who has had success in MLS.
I know.
I hate to say it that way, but it's not like we've seen a guy come in.
But I would also maintain that USL Championship is different now than it has been in years past.
I agree. We also still haven't seen a player truly come from USL and dominate MLS. I mean, Diego Luna kind of counts, but not really. I'm with you, John, but I'm cautious. But USL can also find its own way to turn out young prospects, get them to Europe, like Lou City is doing. Hopefully, something that we can see from more established clubs like where's Tampa Bay, who's been around for decades.
Well, Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is going their way with veterans as opposed to.
I know that's the point.
That's
but there are a lot of other clubs. I mean, Phoenix should be one. They've got an actual complex that they can play with.
38th in Washington, brother. Absolutely.
Like San Antonio.
They've had some turnover. Oh, that reminds me. Where are we in the month? that reminds me, the last Thursday of the month.
Maybe we're just going to get a lot of talent coming out of Rhode Island,
See, there you go. All right, so the last Thursday of the month or last Tuesday of the month would be the 29th. So you're reminding me that Keeler has to be on the show before the playoffs. So Keeler on the last Tuesday of the month on the 29th. See, I wrote that down on my calendar and all that jazz. Episode 98, we're coming to a milestone here. So we are coming toward episode C of the Soccer for USPOD. Yeah. I didn't want to steal from episode 98 and talking about things this morning because I wanted folks to listen to episode 98. So what are they missing from what we didn't talk about today?
Well, so Thomas and I talk about because it's really hard for any friendly to get cut, and despite what USMNT Twitter does, it's hard to get caught up in any one result. Mm-hmm. What we are looking for is performance. That said,
hey, talk to England about Greece.
Well, that was a competitive match, not a friendly. That said, and I tweeted this the other day. Follow me on Twitter at SoccerForUSPod. While friendlies don't functionally matter, mm-hmm. Who cares if you actually win? U.S. Soccer or the USMNT right now is currently ranked 3rd in CONCACAF, which is shocking. But Canada and Panama both had, Canada had a better Copa America that gave them a lot of points, right? Yeah. When you look at the multipliers, The problem is, if you look at the rankings formula, the Copa America is weighted much higher than friendlies, like the triple. Actually. Yeah. The problem now is that if you're the USMNT, November becomes possible. Right now, November, if you stay in 3rd, is a matchup between Costa Rica or Jamaica. Ooh. Two-legged quarterfinal. Now, you should be able to beat both at home by a sizable margin.
Correct.
On the road, places Costa Rica where we've never won, and Jamaica where it seems like we can't find a win recently.
And if Andre Blake is in net.
Right. So, that is undesirable. But you're only 20 points behind Canada. So I'm talking math, and I don't like math. So excuse me, everyone on the Twitch pitch. Mm-hmm. You're 20 points behind Canada, right? A friendly result, the multiplier is 17.5. Okay. So 17.5 times whatever the expected result is.
Okay, so if you win by 2, that's 35.
It's not necessarily, but something like that, right? Okay. Like you have an opportunity to, given your score line and everything, to get more than 20 points in one friendly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Canada is playing host to Panama this window. So they are playing only one friendly. U.S. is playing 2. Mm-hmm. One of those is a road match against a higher ranked team in CONCACAF.
Yes.
That's an opportunity. If you just talk about the 17.5 times whatever that expected outcome is, right? Your expected outcome versus actual outcome basically is what I think it's expected minus actual or actual minus expected. I forget the formula, but whatever.
It's math.
It's math. Point is, you have a higher degree of difficulty down in Mexico. So a draw or a win in Mexico can catapult you into 2nd. And now you're talking about going to Nicaragua or Guatemala, which are much more favorable opponents than Costa Rica and Jamaica, right?
Yes.
That's assuming that Costa Rica and Jamaica in this window of the Nations League do their business, which I don't have any reason to believe they wouldn't.
Because you always need somebody to do their business when they're supposed to.
Yeah. So anyway, we didn't talk about that on the show because that is way
because it's math. Damn it!
I don't like math, but I was doing the math earlier this week, and I was like, "Oh shit, this actually could." Yeah, there you go. Matter, right? And so I think it's important to get a win for a number of reasons. We talked about this on episode 98. But the most important thing is you want to see this team play good soccer and see evidence of a shift in tactical direction.
Okay. And you can pick that up. That'll be posted after we get off the air this morning. Episode XCB III because I don't know if episode IIC is the proper Roman numeralization of it, but episode 98. We
Well,
probably
you were there when they were written, John, so I'd assume you would know.
Thank you. Yes. So we got to figure out. When you hit 100 if we're going to have Serpentina delivered to the.
Well, episode 100 might just be. So we have the men's friendlies obviously this week, and finishing Tuesday. We'll probably record after that, and then the next week we'll get a women's roster because they play the week after next weekend. So as you've seen with the men's team, you usually get the roster the week before training camp starts so that you can put the roster out, and then you have a week of league play, and then you figure out who got hurt, and then you make replacements, and then you go into training camp. So we're a couple weekends removed from U.S. women's national team play, and so we'll get a training camp roster soon.
Yeah, I saw the news on Andy Sullivan come out the other day, and
that was tough. Someone who I've been not championing, but someone who I've been thinking should maybe get another look for the women's national team. Another one is Ashley Sanchez, by the way, who's having a terrific year down in North Carolina. Change of scenery, going from smoggy DC to the tree-covered streets of Cary, North Carolina.
All right, so you're back with us on Monday to break down everything that happened.
Talk about the Panama match and other things that happened this weekend in the world of international soccer. We obviously have Nations League going on both in CONCACAF and in Europe. I know that England doesn't care about Nations League because, that's not real soccer, and that's why they keep finding ways to fall down the league's ladder. Best to them. Thoughts and prayers, and
All right, so we will catch up with you again on Monday, my friend. Thanks for dropping by on a Friday, and enjoy the rest of your cup of coffee. Who's West Virginia got this weekend?
Iowa State at home.
Okay.
At night. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff, and we are wearing the all-black uniforms for the Coal Rush. So
there you go. See, now the Coal Rush, that is an underrated uniform that folks need to buy.
It is very cool. Yeah, and also WVU men's soccer playing Georgia Southern tonight. Down
Yes. So Bart's very busy. So we'll see you on Monday, my friend. Thanks as always for dropping by, especially on short notice.
Yeah. Cheers, y'all. Have a good one.